Traveling folk singer, storyteller, and virtuoso autoharp player Adam Miller shared his unique blend of talents to teach the children about American history. Mr. Miller says that folk songs are a good way to capture a moment in time and share lessons with children.
I think that art reflects the time, and it's really difficult to understand and appreciate the art unless you have some sense of the time that it came from. Similarly, I find that young people very quickly gravitate to an understanding of the oral tradition, the old songs passed on from one person's mouth to another person's ear, from generation to generation. They find this very interesting and they get on board very quickly because, young people spend the first 5 years of their life before they get letters and books and things doing everything in the oral tradition. So the smaller a person is, the more the oral tradition applies to them. And I think that in every generation there have been people like me who've gone around with old songs and old stories and perpetuated this. And for me, it's interesting to be the guy doing it in the 21st century, to go and address young people who sometimes have never seen a live performance before or never heard a folk tale told. And for them, they make the discovery of how entertaining and interesting these old songs and stories are.
Mr. Miller travels all over the United States sharing his music and stories with children and adults. He's even been a featured performer at the annual Walnut Valley Festival. He makes his home in Oregon, and he says that his travels really help him share the stories of America.
You don't really get to understand how big the continental United States is until you drive it. And you don't get to appreciate how different all the regions are until you start hanging out in them and seeing how different regions spawn different kinds of folk songs and different versions of the same folk songs.
Folk songs aren't just dusty old ditties with no place in today's hectic pace.
Many of the songs in my repertoire were written by people who are still around, who are still making great songs, and a lot of the young people we see are the great songwriters of tomorrow.
And though many of the songs he shares are old traditional pieces, Mr. Miller thinks they will live on.
I'm not actually worried about these old traditions disappearing. I think they're part of the collection of things that each generation of human beings really loves and discovers, like hot baths and good food and music and dance and all the other pleasures that people enjoy. I think these old songs and stories are just like that. Folk songs are history as told by ordinary people, regular folks like you and me. That's why it's called folk music, because it's made up by regular folks like you and me.
The students at Buckner Performing Arts Magnet heard songs and stories about Woody Guthrie, the Great Depression, and the wonders of the United States.